contestant, and then Amrabat will come to you.
I mean, I can start with, I can speak just experientially from what we've been doing at NBC. We launched 3 years ago to put an emphasis on the web because the conversations we're having is we don't want to go the way of the newspaper. And I jumped out of newspapers to go to TV thinking it was more stable. That's how crazy I am, so take that for what it's worth. When we first started, a traditional TV news site was throwing what was on the 5 o'clock news an hour later on the web and hoping people would click on it. Your audience was 13 to 15,000 in the local market, and those were the people that either knew someone that was in that story or happened to watch the newscast and missed something that the reporter said and went back and looked at. That was it. That's not financially viable, so the storytelling changed. When Twitter came in, the thing that did so dramatically when it caught fire, and you had Ashton Kutcher racing CNN, and that was like getting coverage and stuff like that, because partly we didn't know what to do with Twitter. We saw people going on there like, we have to figure out what to do with this. People are obviously paying attention. The one thing that we realized quickly that it could do after realizing it's not going to drive numbers back to our site, so we have to be okay with taking information and giving it out free and not worrying about page views or unique visitors and all that stuff. But it also forced us to work on a 24-hour news cycle that was different than what we would do before. So going back to Egypt on a local level, in your previous 5 o'clock news, you would basically have a 30-second blurb about the main thing that happened, and it would be lifted from NBC National, and that's it. But what happened, this is maybe like 2 years ago, this would have been the case. But with Twitter and Facebook, and then also, you want to mention NPR, Drudge, or anyone like that, we were forced to cover stuff on the web at a level that we wouldn't have. So Egypt all of a sudden became something that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 above the fold on all our sites, and dominating our Twitter feeds, and driving our Facebook conversations on our site. And part of that was to gauge reaction from people to see what they wanted to see. How are you taking this international event and making it local and relevant? And in all our markets, it was different stuff. Here in the Bay Area, we saw at NBC that people were interested more in the technology angle. So when Wael Khouin's face became apparent and there was the Google connection, they jumped all over it. And they were intrigued because all of a sudden you have this local niche here where people are interested in Google because Google does every little thing here and people want to know about it. So you have that tie into that. So we were telling the story through that perspective. In New York, we were telling the story through how many masses are on the street, how many people are going to their mobile phones and collecting, because it's a very fast-paced society. It's people are out all the time. So it's different storytelling. A lot of that is gauged by the reaction we're getting from people on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that.
So after coming out, after 4 years of this, I wasn't a journalist when I started All Voices, and I wanted it to be a platform where it didn't really matter what people said. You could establish a credibility system based on how people crowdsourcing worked, whether people rated up, rated down. You also looked at signals on the internet to give you an idea of a piece of content. I got caught in the storm of this whole traditional media declining, so we had a lot of journalists who started writing for All Voices because we shared a percentage of our revenue with the writer based on how the content performed on All Voices. And each of our writer can also tweet it, can also Facebook it. So not only do we drive traffic through search, which All Voices was really good at and it still is, but the writer also has the incentive to drive traffic through their Facebook page and through their Twitter feeds. But what I've realized is what we see of Twitter is the same mechanism as what a telephone was. It's a broadcast medium. It's getting people to broadcast a lot of information. The whole idea is Twitter is not a storytelling machine. Someone still has to be looking at these inputs, whatever they are, whatever topic they're interested in, they need to be listening to the medium, and then taking that medium and putting it into their storytelling. Storytelling is more important than it has ever been, and so that's why I think the role of journalists is evolving from not going out and interviewing people, but you looking at all these sources as an information source, pulling it and making it more multimedia and short form. So long form in the sense is I don't want to read someone's article that may be 3 pages long on the web because I just don't have the attention span. But an ability to use Flickr photos, using YouTube video, and bringing them all together, and then telling your story in a manner that you know how to write a great story is where the winners are going to be in the future. And it's really interesting, Shahid, for All Voices writers who actually made money at the end of the month, for them, it was very interesting that how they could drive traffic from Twitter, because the content would be, they would put a link from Twitter to the other page and get page views. And the more medium that you use with images, videos, the more people stay time on site on their page increases, and they also get page page views per session also goes up, which makes it easier to monetize.
Awesome. Questions back to the audience.